Welcome to Midnight Whispers. Tonight we walk among headstones and hollow names. The grass is wet. The wind whispers through iron gates. Some graves sigh when no one listens. Some never learn to stay closed. Footsteps trail you but no one is there. A bell that should be rusted rings. Cold breath curls from a mouth you cannot see. Shadows lean closer, hungry for a heartbeat. Stories rise from the dirt, clawing at the dark. They will follow you home. They will wait at your door. If you keep watching, they might let you leave. If you stop, they won't. Story number 1. They said it started with laughter. I did not believe in ghosts. When I moved into the old Wright House on Cochrane Road, I was 34, divorced with a job selling antiques half-days and restoring furniture the rest. I needed quiet. Wright House was miles beyond anything I had known. Peeling white paint, gabled roof sagging, shutters twisted like broken teeth. Trees crowded in on all sides. A dry creek bed ran behind it, the sound of wind through dead leaves every evening. When I first saw it, I thought I had found peace. I thought I'd found solitude, but I was wrong. My first Halloween there was calm. The wind turned colder, the moon full and sharp in a sky smudged with clouds. I decorated nothing. I closed every blind. I kept to myself. At midnight, I slept in the upstairs bedroom overlooking the yard. Maybe it was just a dream when I heard the knock. It came at exactly 12 in the morning. 3 light raps at the front door. Slow, deliberate, quiet, but distinct. I lay awake, heart thumping, listening. The door was solid oak, deadbolt locked, chain in place. I knew no one walked out here at that hour. I told myself someone must have tripped the porch steps. I rolled over and sleep claimed me. The next night I heard the knock again. Same time precisely. 3 knocks. Lighter this time, as though someone pressing knuckles gently into wood. I waited. No footsteps, no voice, no answer to any shout. I stood, flashlight in hand. I crept downstairs. The hallway light flickered. I approached the front door. I put my ear close to the wood and listened for breath or motion. Nothing. I opened it. The night wind rushed in. No one stood there. The porch was empty. I saw nothing but the outline of trees, the moon behind clouds, and the cold blue shine of the driveway gravel. I closed the door, locked it, chain latched. I told myself I was being silly. A prank, some kid from town daring each other. I expected it to stop. It did not. The third night, the knock came again. Same pattern. 3 soft knocks, exactly midnight. I lay rigid in my bed. I wondered if I was imagining it. If my hearing was magnified by silence. I listened, waited, heart pounding. Then stillness. Then the knock. I slid from the bed in darkness, footsteps creaking, wood floor cold under bare feet. I made my way downstairs, hugging the wall like a child lost. I turned on every light. The bulbs in the kitchen flickered. I grabbed a kitchen knife for comfort. I walked to the door. On the porch, I saw footprints in the gravel. Small ones, bare maybe. No shoes. They led from the edge of the porch steps to the front door. I knelt and examined them. They were wet. The gravel around them looked as though someone stepped in dew or in something damp, but the grass was dry that night. No dew had formed, no rain. I looked up and down the driveway, nothing, no silhouettes. No shape retreating into darkness. I touched the prints. The cold gravel crunched under my fingers. I looked up at the door. My reflection in the glass panel, pale, wide-eyed. I closed the door, locked every lock, my hands trembling. I called the sheriff's department the next morning. Sheriff Owens was polite. He said he could drive by, shine a flashlight. Maybe check patrols. Said probably kids messing around. I believed him. I wanted to believe. I did not mention any prints. I made some excuse. I told my voice cracked, coughing something about leaves and wind. He said he'd be by the next night. He had other calls but promised he would. Night fell that 4th night. At 11:59, I lay in bed listening to the wind in the trees, the creek behind the house rustling, squirrels rustling, all that life. Then exactly midnight, knocked 3 times. As always, I sat up. I locked eyes with the bedroom door where the hallway darkness pressed. I got up, I dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt. My hands closed on the screwdriver in the nightstand. I crept down the stairs. The new porch light bulb shone bright, a yellow glow over peeling wood. I checked locks again, chain, deadbolt, regular lock. All engaged. I stood at the threshold. Outside the door, a boy stood, pale, shirt-clad though the air was cold. His hair damp and plastered to his scalp. He looked 12 or 13 years old. He did not speak. The welt of moonlight on him made skin so pale it appeared luminous. He held nothing. He did not move except to stand. His eyes were empty dark holes. Or maybe because I could not see pupils. I froze, the entire breath of the house held. I saw him. I saw the knuckles pressed to wood, the small bare feet on cold porch wood. I cannot say whether I screamed. I think I did. I backed inside. I slammed the door, locked it, chained it. I leaned against the door, knife in hand, heart jarring. He stayed, even then. Through the door glass, I saw his head turn very slightly, as though he was watching me watching him. The moonlight made his hair a weave of damp darkness. His thin arms hung slack at his sides. No smile, no frown, no recognition. He just stood. I whispered something. "What do you want?" But he did not answer. The silence was heavier than anything. Then he knocked again. 3 times. Quiet now, insistent, like a bird tapping at glass. And then he turned and walked off into the yard. Soft footsteps rustling leaves. I watched until he vanished behind a tree. I could see nothing further. Then I fell to my knees, hands trembling. I cried. I sat there for what felt like an hour. Then the phone. Sheriff Owens called. He said he was 5 minutes out with a patrol car. I told him. He said, "Hold the line." I waited. The sheriff arrived. 2 patrolmen. They shone flashlights in the yard. They checked the driveway, trees, creek bed. Nothing. No footprints beyond the porch in the shadows. The porch steps clean but for dry leaves. Sheriff Owens looked at me under his brow. He asked questions. Have I been drinking, any stress at work, any history of hallucinations? I said no to all. My eyes heavy. I told him I was sleep-deprived, overworked. He nodded. He said sometimes the mind plays tricks in solitude. He left with polite concern. He said he'd drive by again next night. He said call if I saw the boy again. I promised. I sat on the couch, coffee in hand, trembling. I stared at the TV but saw nothing. I slept badly that night. In dreams I heard knocking, whispers, boy breathing shallow. I woke covered in sweat. Dawn came pale and fragile. The next day I thought of leaving. But I paid a deposit, had signed papers. I liked the place earlier by daylight. The trees, the creek, the sky overhead like a cathedral, the isolation. I told myself it was good for restoring furniture. I did not want to be afraid in my own home. So I stayed. Night 5 came. I sat up at midnight, knock, louder this time. 3 raps. My heart almost stopping. I reached the stairs with bare feet, skin cold. I grabbed flashlight and the knife. I descended slowly. The house creaked in its old frame. The wind rattled a window. I stepped on a loose floorboard and froze. Soft panting, like a breath held inside lungs too long. The hallway light flickered. I took the door handle. I pulled it open fractionally. The porch is empty. Then I saw the boy behind the tree at the edge of the yard. I turned the flashlight on him. The beam struck him full. Pale face, dead eyes, small hands. He stood there like stone. I said, "Hey, who are you?" No answer. I stepped outside, knife ready. The air snapped cold in my lungs. His clothes were wet, dirty, his skin glistened pale. I advanced toward him, every step crunching leaves. He did not move nor run. The beam trembled. I raised my voice. I said, "This is my house. Get away." He simply lifted a hand as though to wave. A smile curled briefly on his lips that was wrong. Not human. The shadow of something over his eyes. He turned away and stepped into the darkness. Then he vanished into the trees. No sound except leaves falling. My flashlight hung in midair, beam dancing. I remained rooted. Then wind, branches, and nothing. I slammed the door, locked, chain, all of it. Inside, I banged the lock as though it could protect me from what I saw. I fell against the door. I wept. I wept because I realized something. This was not pranks. This was not kids. This was not harmless. Then the night stretched longer. Each night the knock exactly midnight. Each night the boy appeared briefly, sometimes behind trees, sometimes at the edge of the driveway, watching through a window. No voice, no movement, but watching. Always pale. Always silent. Always there. I stopped sleeping. I kept a flashlight, the knife, moved a chair under my bedroom window. I asked the town. I visited the library. I spoke to old residents. I asked about child disappearances, about Wright House, about anything odd. No local record of any boy wandering, of any missing children in decades. No legend tied to Wright property, nothing. The house had been empty for years before I moved in. Owned by someone who died. Before that, a series of renters moved out. Some claimed cold spots, footsteps, fleeting shadows. Each left suddenly. No explanation. Then guests in town said they saw it, a boy. On Cochrane Road. Sometimes hitchhiking. No one stopped. No one knew identity. I tried to rationalize. Perhaps loss, perhaps grief, perhaps my own mind breaking. But each night evidence gathered. Footprints, always the same pattern. 3 knocks. The boy appearing, his gaze. The wetness of his skin, though it had not rained. Always damp. Odor of river water or moss. A faint undertone of something decayed. I burned incense sage. I banged on walls. I left lights on. Nothing altered. Night 12 came. I walked with a pistol, not something I ever imagined. I stood behind the door and waited. Midnight came, knock. I swallowed hard. I opened door a fraction. The porch light flickered. No boy. I stepped outside. I called into the darkness, voice faltering. Come on, show me. Nothing. No answer. No silhouette. My eyes straining in moonlight, then a voice. Child's voice. Soft. From somewhere to my left, behind a bush. Please, it said. High-pitched, fragile. Just one word. I inhaled. My flashlight darted toward the bush. I approached. Branches scraped my arms. I knelt. The bush moved. I drew breath. Then nothing. Just wind and darkness. No boy, no pleading voice. My skin prickled. I stood. I got back inside. I locked everything. I watched windows but saw nothing. My reflection in glass startled me, eyes red, drawn. My hands shaking. Days passed. The temperature dropped. Leaves turned brittle. Wind shredded branches. I installed motion sensors, cameras outside. I recorded. I staked out. I tried everything. The footage showed the frontier, yard, trees, porch steps. At midnight each night the cameras caught nothing for minutes. Then the porch light flickering. A blur of pale, a slender arm swinging into view momentarily. Nothing more. For me the door would show, distinct in grain, knuckles knocking. But the camera resolved grainy shadows. Always the same 3 knocks in sound recording. Always. The motion sensor triggered but proved nothing but grass swaying and leaves falling. Weeks in. My nervous system raw. My colleagues at the furniture shop noticed. I canceled jobs. I avoided people. I barely ate. I did not clean. The house grew colder. Rooms felt smaller. Shadows pressed closer. My breath smoked in cold air inside halls. My pet stopped coming upstairs. My dog cowered in a corner, teeth bared, fur hackled. I thought perhaps I was going insane. One night, night 21, I woke earlier. Storm clouds gathered, thunder in distance. The moon hidden. Wind gusted. Lightning flickered. I did not hear knocks, but I heard footsteps on the porch. Heavy. Like someone stepping in heavy boots, though no boots had been visible at any time. Thunder cracked. I bolted erect in bed, heart pounding. I crawled toward the window, peered through blinds, nothing. Porches swallowed by darkness. Then lightning. In that flash I saw him, the boy, standing on the steps, pale, shirt wet, hair plastered. But his boots were muddy and heavy. Not bare feet. He held something in his hands. A doll, old ragged doll. One eye missing, stuffing spilling, the other eye glassy and watching me. He raised the doll as though showing it. Then the lightning faded. And he was gone, no flash, no figure at all. Just porch empty. I ran downstairs. Outside the door I found the doll. It lay in the porch hall, wet with something sticky. I knelt, touched it. I felt strings of moth-eaten cloth, a face marred. It smelled sour, like damp cloth left to rot. My fingers slick. I recoiled. I brought it inside. I locked the door. I pressed the doll against my chest. I stared at it. I felt I needed to burn it. I wanted to destroy it, but I could not bring myself. I left it in the living room, eyes facing the front window. The next night the doll moved. Just a little. I saw one glassy eye turn toward me. It creaked, thin voice, please, not loud, barely above breath. I thought I imagined a sound. I stared. The room was cold enough my breath showed. The candle flickered. The doll's stitched mouth parted slightly. I thought I saw a lip shift. My stomach lurched. I heard someone at the front door knock, 3 knocks. I held the doll. I wrapped it in a blanket. I carried it outside. I threw it into the creek bed behind the house. I watched it float for a moment, then sink among stones and reeds. I ran back inside. Cleaned hands on my jeans. I locked everything. Sat in darkness. Waited through the night. Midnight came, knock, 3 raps. I did not move. Sunken in couch, yet I heard the porch creak. Then footsteps heavy. Boots on wood. I saw a silhouette at the door. The boy. He stood there soaking wet. No doll, no ragged toy. His eyes fixed on me. I felt a cold finger against my throat. When I looked, I saw a faint outline behind his eyes as though another presence. He raised his arm. He struck the door once with his fist. Punch, punch, not knocks. Then he walked off. Boots splashing in moisture. Leaves scattering, then silence. Dead silence. Fear so thick I could taste it. I trembled, locked in place, sweat and cold intermingled. Dawn arrived 2 hours later. I sat until light was clear. Then I drove to town. At the diner I sat alone, coffee cold. Sheriff Owens joined me. He said he had news. They had checked records. No child matching description. No missing kid living or found. No one ever claimed a doll that matched report. No one reported hearing knocks on Cochrane Road at midnight. Just me. I told him about doll. About voice. About wet boots. He listened. No judgment. Old sheriff's coat draped over shoulders, face lined with suspicion and pity. He offered little comfort. He said sometimes old houses remember grief, sometimes guilt, sometimes loss. He said perhaps someone died here, some family left heartbreak. He did some digging. He came back saying Wright House was built by the Wrights in 1912. 20 years later, a boy, their son, drowned in the creek behind the house. He was 12. No evidence survived. Grave unmarked. Family moved away. The boy's body was recovered but buried in an anonymous grave. Wrights left town soon. Over time, memories faded. House sold, tenants left. No one spoke much of it. Only rumor I managed some relief. Perhaps grief echoing. Perhaps residual haunting. Perhaps that explained something. Yet that night no relief came. I returned home, dread thick in my bones. I locked door. I prepared for midnight. I lay on sofa, eyes open. The house creaked. Went outside. I felt something shift in air. Midnight came, knock 3 times. I rose trembling. I went to the door. I saw small boot prints in the dry floorboard inside just near threshold. They were wet as though something trudged through damp grass into foyer. I had swept and cleaned. No moisture should exist. I stepped backward. Under the porch light, nothing. Then lightning in distance. The boy stood on porch, pale. He held something in his hand. Not the doll. A photograph. Wetter edges. He held it facing me. It was me, my face. Taken from somewhere. I peered, stung by fear. He lowered it. I saw behind me in the photograph the room and me asleep on sofa. The photo was wet and stained. It smelled damp like river water. He raised an arm, pointing at me. Then he knocked. Once very loud. Then again, and again. I heard the wood crack. I heard the door jostle. I backed away. I said no. He said nothing. The photo dropped. He stepped into porch hall. The chain lock held, but the door jiggled. I watched his small hand gripping frame. He pushed. The door groaned. I saw his face lit by porch light. Water rolling off skin, unblinking eyes, mouth open in soundless scream. He pushed forcibly again, crack, frame splitting. I raised knife shaking. I yelled. I pulled door from chain. It swung open. He was inside. Just inside. His shirt plastered. Mud on boots heavy. The photo lay at his feet. He looked at me, a tremor of recognition. He raised something above his head. A jagged sliver of broken wood from the doorframe. He swung, the blade of wood sharpened by broken edge. It came down toward me. I woke in hospital. They said I had fallen backward. The boy must have slipped in. The door shattered. The fall broke something. A shard of wood pierced my shoulder. I lay bleeding. They said I had lost consciousness. The police found nothing but broken doorframe, muddy footprints, wet shirt, soaked hair. No doll, no photograph, photo torn. The boy nowhere. No trace, no body. The creek behind was combed by search parties, nothing. They discharged me. My shoulder ached. My nights made hollow by memory. When I returned to the house, I found a photograph pinned to my front door. The same photo the boy held. My face in sleep. Me reclining on the sofa, unaware. I recognized the furniture. I recognized the angle. I had taken photos of the house months earlier to record repairs. I'd hung them in hallway to check decor. The picture was from one of those cameras. The photograph soaked through, staining the door wood dark. The corners curled. Water stains across my face. I dropped the photo. I stared. I heard the knock. 3 raps. Midnight. I did not move. I did not respond. I did not go to door. I sat in darkness, eyes feverish, body trembling. The doorknob rattled. The chain held. Outside I heard damp boots shuffle. Leaves rustled. Breath or no breath. A small voice said, "Please." My throat closed. I understood at that moment what he wanted. Not candy, not warmth, not shelter. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted me to see. He wanted me to know the story. I felt in my marrow that this was never about peace. This was about guilt. About forgetting. About silence I never left, but I never slept again. Every night he knocks. Every midnight. I see him in windows. I hear his voice asking. I smell damp creak. I feel boots soggy on porch wood. I see his pale face. I see him pointing at photograph on my wall. Sometimes I follow. I find pictures I never took, of rooms I never entered. Shadows behind me. Sometimes I wake with scratches on my arms. I patch them. I clean them. Daylight comes but does not heal. I look at my life and know I did this. By forgetting. By buying a house, restoring things, turning my back on history. The creek behind the house flows still. At midnight the wind crawls through walls. The boy knocks. 3 times. I have begun to speak of this only because I cannot keep silent. If someone reads this, I hope they understand. Moving into an old house carries memories. Moving into silence carries ghosts. They said it was just a Halloween prank. They were wrong. The boy comes after midnight. The boy demands. He wants me to remember. And I remember now. Always now. The photograph, the boots, the damp. Every midnight I hear the knock. Every midnight I stare at door. And every midnight I know I will never be alone. Story number 2. This is the true story of what happened one October in Fern Hollow, Pennsylvania, small town, miles of cornfields, a patch of pumpkins out behind old Simmons's farm, children whispering, grown-ups pretending nothing strange is going on. I never believed in ghosts until I lived through what the soil beneath that pumpkin patch did to us. I moved to Fern Hollow in late August. My wife Jen got a teaching job at the rural school. I took over the hardware store in town. It was the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business. The sun rises golden over the fields of corn, and in autumn the air tastes of cold apples and decaying leaves. Simmons's pumpkin patch sat on 70 acres of flat land just beyond the ridge, the pumpkins massed in neat rows, bright orange lanterns resting heavy on pale vines. Kids bought pumpkins every Halloween from there. Parents drove out, chose their jack-o'-lanterns, hauled them back. It was ordinary. It was safe. In mid-September, I noticed something odd. The pumpkins in the patch seemed to be growing too fast. I saw this first driving by late one evening. Jen and I had come back from town, dusk sliding into dark. The patch looked different. Pumpkins heavy, plump, sunken in their vines. Sometimes twice the size I expected for that early in the season. I mentioned it to Simmons the next morning. He shrugged. "Good soil, good rain," he said. "Been fertilizing more this year." But when I asked how often he fertilized, he paused and his eyes flicked toward the hill behind the patch. He said nothing more. I left it at that. Then the whispers started. I heard them first from the school bus driver, Mrs. Mallory, shaky voice over coffee at the diner. "You hear the kids talking about voices down there," she said, pointing toward Simmons's land. "They say if you lean close to the ground you can hear something under the earth." I snorted. I told her must be wind burrowing mice or nothing, but I listened anyway. One afternoon I walked into the patch with my son Tommy, who was 9. He crouched next to a vine, put his ear to the soil. He tilted his head and looked at me with wide eyes. "Dad," he said very quietly, "there's someone under there telling me to come." I pulled him up by the hand. I tried to reassure him, roots worms. Nothing more. But he shivered. By early October the pumpkins were perfect. Smooth texture, flawless skin, color vivid as candles. Of orange so bright it hurt the eyes. Size large, jack-o'-lantern sized, some 2 times that. I told Jen about it. She frowned. She teaches biology. She knows plant growth rates. She said something unnatural was happening. I agreed, but I could not make sense of it. Then the disappearances began. The first was little Sarah Blake, 6 years old, daughter of the Hurt family. She'd gone out in the evening to choose a pumpkin with her mother. They walked among the vines until sundown. Her mother turned, Sarah was gone. No call from a phone, nothing. Search parties combed the patch, the woods beyond, the creek that runs behind Simmons's land. No trace. Only her small boot in dry, cracked soil found near the edge of the pumpkin vines. Everyone chalked it up to tragic accident. Perhaps she wandered and collapsed. But the soil there is firm dry in October. Her body never found. Then another kid, young Marcus, 11, also with his parents, picking pumpkins. Same. Last seen walking between vine rows. No screams, no cry, just gone. The vine rows were searched. The soil turned. The creek dried up, nothing. The patch was vast, but nothing pointed to predators. Coyotes, maybe. But no signs they dragged anything. No blood, no fur, no struggle. And always, the whispers. At night, people in town claimed they heard muffled voices beneath the earth. Faint, like children calling your name. Sometimes a parent reported hearing a child's laughter far below ground when they were tucking in their own child, almost as though the soil itself laughed. Some claimed when walking past the patch after dark, they felt the vibrations under their feet. Soil pulsing, almost like breathing. The town council met. Sheriff Davis came out. He shined lights over the patch, brought his men with dogs. They found nothing but healthy vines, heavy pumpkins, soil unbroken. They said no signs of hollow tunnels, no disturbance. One night I went out to take pictures of the pumpkins for a shop display. Moon was thin, sky cloud riven. I crouched among vines, camera on tripod. The smell was strong. Damp earth, rot barely starting at pumpkin stems, moss, also something thicker, metallic. I bent to photograph a large pumpkin glowing faintly by moonlight. Heat from it surprised me. Not much, but enough I put my hand near the rind. It felt warmer than it should in that chill air. I heard whispering behind me, low under the soil, something like my name. I jerked upright. No one in sight. The night was still except for wind in the corn beyond. I packed up and left. The weeks drew closer to Halloween. I tried to warn people. In local paper I wrote a small piece. Pumpkins growing unnaturally large. Some laughed, some worried. Simmons refused to speak to me much. He said he was busy, had a binder full of fertilizer receipts. Jen said I was becoming obsessed. Tommy wouldn't go near the vines at dusk anymore. On October 28th, 2 nights before Halloween, I drove through the patch late when a mist had settled low on the ground. The moon full, the vines weighed with fruit so heavy some sagged, their leaves rustling in windless air. I stopped the car. Air smelled of earth and iron. I stepped out. Mist wrapped around ankles. I knelt, touched dirt. It was soft, loamy. I pressed a finger in. The soil buckled under pressure as though something just beneath shifted. I heard a sound then, faint scraping like a rusted nail dragged through wood. I froze. Shadows ahead, pumpkins aglow pale orange, pulsing like lanterns. I stared at a large one. It convulsed. I saw vine tremor. The ground beneath it sunk slightly, then lifted as if breathing. My heart thudded, something grabbed my wrist, coldness sharp. I jerked away. There was no one there. Just soil, damp, circles from my hand, imprint fading. I scrambled back to the car. Doors banged in mist, engine turned, tires left tracks in soft earth. I did not sleep that night. Halloween night came with gusts of wind, low clouds, moon hidden behind broken sky. We had trick-or-treaters. Town was dressed in orange and brown. I stayed home with Jen and Tommy, windows shuttered. Around 10, we heard distant laughter. Children calling, but also distant cries. Cries that sounded like someone submerged. Tommy woke up. He said he thought he saw someone crawl out from beneath the soil behind our house. I assured him he must have dreamed. Midnight approached. I could not stay indoors. I went outside. The pumpkin patch behind Simmons's farm stretched far beyond the reach of any street lamp, beyond the ridge under poor moonlight. I walked along the edge, my boots sinking into soft earth that smelled newly tilled, richer than usual. I paused at a large pumpkin, almost perfect, the skin stretched tight, veins of green showing under the orange. I touched it. It was warm. I put both ears to the ground beside it. I pressed hard. Silence, then whisper, "Come down." Very faint, almost lost. My flesh crawled. I jumped back, then I saw movement. Half hidden by vines, by shadows, a shape. Small. A child's silhouette moving underground, pushing up soil. I crouched, squinting. Vines parted. Dirt rolled. Something glistened. A pale hand, wrist-thin, fingers clogged with soil. It clawed upward. I took photograph. Flash from camera lit a moment. The hand, thin arm, pumpkin skin cut open. I saw flesh, wet soil, root-like tendrils. The hand pulled. The body of a small child forced itself upward from soil as though buried alive, but eyes fixed in permanent fear. Before I could shout Jen's name, before I could move, that body stopped. A pumpkin vine had wrapped tightly around neck, soil and tendrils rooted into flesh. The skin peeled. The eyes no longer had hope, just a steady, wide stare. The body sank back into soil. The vine accepted its weight and the earth closed over it. No struggle, no scream. Only my ragged breathing. I ran. I didn't stop until I hit road. I looked back. Pumpkins glowing, vines moving like snakes, the soil collapsing in places. I stayed in car until dawn. My hands shook. I pressed the photos. One image I saved. Grainy, half dark. A thin arm, pale skin, vine. That image haunted me. Next morning, news. The town was searching. They came for Sarah Blake and Marcus, also for a third kid, Abigail Monroe, who had been gone since yesterday. They discovered nothing. No body, no trace, not in soil, not in creek, not in woods. Only the patch. Pumpkins harvested a double crop. Simmons had already sold most of larger ones. The patch looked healthier, more perfect than ever. Tomatoes if plants were healthy, vines robust. I felt something break inside me when I learned Simmons had sold to a family in Ohio a giant prize pumpkin. Perfect round. Flawless, glowing in appearance more than any I'd seen. The buyer left with it in their truck. I watched it go. That night the buyer's house burned down. No survivors. Fire crew said cause unknown. Among the charred ruins they found the pumpkin intact on the stoop. Skin blackened but perfect in shape. Seeds inside scorched plug. They said it had been sitting on porch untouched. The house smelled of damp earth and rot inside, despite dryness outside. They found scorched soil and burnt wooden porch. The rest destroyed. They came to my door. Sheriff Davis said they wanted to take me in, question me. Because of the photograph, because some photos leaked. I told them what I saw. They asked if I entered patch, if I disturbed soil, if I had done anything. I said yes to soil, yes to photograph. They asked if I took pumpkin, if I sold, if I gave away. I said no. They muttered about trespassing. The photograph was evidence, but all other evidence was gone. That night I dreamed of soil. I dreamed of hands under pumpkins. I woke covered with earth, though I had slept on bedding. I smelled dirt in my nose. I found soil under nails I washed. I felt roots under floorboards. I could hear low whispers. Tommy stopped speaking at night. He would not eat pumpkin pie. Would not even go near a photograph of the patch. Jen avoided talking to me, avoiding my eyes. She said I needed rest. I said I would rest when the soil stopped talking. On All Hallows evening, I heard a hammering at the door just after midnight. I got up, flashlight in hand. I saw a silhouette in glass. A child's shape. Skin pale, dirt on hands, vines twisted around ankles. The pumpkin I had photographed lay on my stoop. Perfect shape. Its skin glowed faint in moonlight. I opened the door. There stood nothing but mist. The pumpkin sat there alone. I reached out. It was warm, irregular now, bruise of black across side. I turned it over. Under Nyat, carved deep between flesh, was a tiny handprint. Fresh. My pulse pounding. I looked past the pumpkin, soil doorframe. I slammed door, locked it. My bed squeaked. I pulled covers over my head. I squeezed my eyes shut. But whispers came through floorboards. Come down. Tommy's name. My name. The voices spoke soft, hypnotic. I could not move. The house seemed to breathe. Faint tremor in floor. Mist seeping under windows. Lights flickered. I tried to scream. Something pressed, heavy. Something crawling beneath planks. I saw roots under door seams, spreading. I felt fingers on my arm, though no one was there. Then nothing. Silence. Morning. The pumpkin gone. Door intact, though damp soil-smeared wood. My hands dirty. I knew then I would never leave Fern Hollow. The soil had chosen. The patch remembers. Every October its hunger wakes. Children vanish. Voices call beneath the patch. On Halloween all is perfect. All is orange. All is waiting. Story number 3. I found this thrift mirror in a yard sale on Elm Street, small town of Miller's Ridge, Pennsylvania. $5. Heavy frame, ornate wood carved in leaf motif, the glass dark smudged and small spider cracks in one corner. The old woman behind the stall said it came from an old house out by the cemetery. No good, but she still sold it cheap. I brought it home, thought I might clean it, put it above the mantel in the living room, perhaps use it in my restoration business for photo reference. I did not expect what it showed. It was early September when I first noticed something off. I was looking in the mirror one evening, checking my hair, tired from work. The reflection was normal, me, the old sofa, my cat Marcy perched on the armrest. Then I saw a candle flicker behind me, reflected, but behind me in real life was nothing. I turned, no candle, nothing burning. I stood, heart beating in my throat. I turned back at the mirror. The reflection showed an orange pumpkin patch under a full moon. Halloween night, not September. The trees in the background were skeletal, branches bare, clouds scudded by the moon, moonlight bright and cold. A carnival tent or something like one, lights in distance. I dropped my breathing. I touched the glass. My finger left a smudge over the vine-covered ground in the reflection, but real life was dark, quiet living room. I laughed nervously. I convinced myself I'd been staring too long at shadows, fatigue. I turned away, but the mirror would show stories always that same night, October 31st. I tried testing it on different dates. I waited until October 5th, October 12th, November 2nd. Each night before sleep, I stood in front of it. At 11:50, I looked. Midnight came. Real room dimly lit, the mirror changed. It always showed the same Halloween night. Carved pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns glowing, children in masks walking cobblestone paths, faint carnival music, leaves blowing, a moon bright on dead branches. I watched faces I couldn't place, laughter that sounded happy but hollow. Face behind me in mirror, sometimes a figure I didn't recognize, tall, hunched, motionless. When I turned around, nothing. My wife Claire noticed I'd become quiet at night. "You distant," she said. "You look haunted." I tried to tell her about the mirror. She frowned when I described the carnival tents, the masked children. She said I had been reading too many horror books, watching too many weird late-night things. But one night she insisted to see. I led her into living room at midnight. Lights off, only a lamp across the room dim. I gestured at mirror. The reflection glowed strangely. Children dancing. Claire's jaw dropped. She saw things. She asked what the date was. I said it was November 4th. She looked back at mirror. She said she saw October 31st. She saw children in masks, saw the haunted fair, saw the full moon behind skeletal trees. She saw someone standing behind me, a tall shadow. She spun, no one. She looked back. The figure was close, shoulders rising over mine, head tilted. Then it pumped forward slightly. Just a shift, just the sense of someone breathing at me. We both jumped. Then the reflection flickered back to our living room. I felt sweat cold on skin. From then on, I experimented. I covered the mirror, sealed it, moved furniture. I tried swapping lamps, changing curtains, altering everything. Each time, when midnight came, the mirror revealed Halloween night. Same carnival, same moon, same shadows, same masked faces that passed. The smell sometimes, roasted sugar, burnt wood, copper oddness like coins or blood. I smelled it in breath of the reflection. I tasted it in the mouth of the air, though real room smelled of varnish, wood glue, dust. My own breath smelled clean, but in reflection I saw orange smoke drifting off a funnel cake stand. My sleep worsened. I dreamt of the mirror, of the hidden face behind me. I dreamt that on Halloween night I was walking the fairgrounds among families, children in masks, sound of laughter, of something else scratching behind masks. I felt hands touch me, cold, wet through glass. I woke full of cold sweat. The nightlight beside bed weak, shadowed. I saw the mirror's shape in the corner. I flinched. I wished I had never bought it. In late October, the town held its harvest festival. I avoided going. I felt mirrored things in crowds. I felt carnival rides spinning. I felt I was back inside the mirror among masked faces, whispers behind me. Claire dragged me. She insisted. I saw a reflection at a booth mirror outside. I recoiled. The carnival booth was decorated with mirrors. Someone behind me in reflection, unmasked, face gaunt, eyes deep. I turned. No one. Claire grabbed my arm. I pulled away. I left. I walked back home, heart pumping. On October 30th, I locked the mirror in the spare room, covered with sheet, placed a rug in front. I thought maybe in morning things would feel better. I stayed awake as midnight approached. I could hear wind outside. I could hear leaves scraping windows. The furnace kicked on. I stood in hallway listening. Midnight came. I heard whispering, faint, childlike laughter under me like floorboards vibrating. I crept toward spare room. I opened door a crack. Light from hallway cast rectangle on the sheet-covering mirror. Sheet shifted. The reflection showed light behind sheet, glow-bleeding edges. The sheet rose slightly in reflection as though someone inside trying to lift it. I gasped. I pulled back the sheet. Saw only dull blank glass, dusty. I stood frozen. Then the reflection shifted. I saw the fair, I saw the crowd, I saw children walking past and someone looking back at me. Behind me in the reflection was a figure, tall, masked, wearing dark overcoat. I turned around, nothing. I looked back. Mirror showed me standing, alone in room. The reflection of figure behind me. Figure stepping forward, hand reaching for my shoulder. I screamed. Sheet fell. Mirror reel. Glass cold. My arm went limp. I stumbled back. Claire came. She asked what was wrong. I showed her mirror. She saw nothing but us reflected in empty room. I tried to convey what I saw. She looked hard. She said my eyes were red, my breathing shallow. She asked me to leave it covered. I agreed. Halloween night I could barely eat. Tommy had dressed as a clown. He looked happy, safe. Claire tried to bring normalcy. At 10 we tucked Tommy in. Lights off. I sat beside window listening to the leaves, the wind. Midnight approached. I had decided I would break the mirror, smash it. I found a hammer in garage. I stood in the spare room with sheet off. Hammer raised. Heart thrumming in ears. Midnight struck. I swung. Wood frame cracked. Glass shattered. Hammer swung again. Glass flew. The fragments scattered. I heard something in the crash. High-pitched laughter, not human. I dropped hammer. I pressed hands to ears. I saw the shards glitter in pale light. I saw my reflection in one corner piece, my face twisted in fear. Then I saw another piece where the carnival fair was still going. The children, the lights, the overcoat figure. That small shard reflected that. I tried to stamp on the piece. It cut my foot. Red blossomed. I yanked it. The shard bounded off, embedding in the baseboard. Blood-smeared wood. I clutched Claire's hand. She knelt, saw blood. She cursed softly. I said I saw it. I told her I saw Halloween night in the shard still. Claire said, let's leave, go stay with her sister. I nodded. I packed a bag, Tommy asleep. We stepped outside. The night was still. The moon hidden behind clouds. In driveway, I looked back at house. Through broken window, I saw something in upstairs, pale shape, by spare room where mirror had hung. I saw figure, overcoat, mask. It raised hand. A lantern, perhaps. I blinked. It vanished. We got in car. Claire driving. Tommy asleep in back. I watched house fade behind. I thought I saw movement in top window. Pale face in reflection of broken glass. I breathed shallow. Claire asked what I was doing. I said nothing. She glanced at me. I stared ahead. We went 3 hours away. Stayed in motel. I tried to sleep. I lay in bed, heart loud. Midnight came. I curled under sheets. The rug under bed shifted. I looked. A shard of mirror had come with us, hidden in clothes and bag. On the nightstand in motel, I saw it, small, curved, reflective. I tried to throw it. It cut. I tried to smash it. It only cracked further, still showing the carnival, still showing Halloween night in edges. I could see the fair, the masked children, a distant Ferris wheel. Somewhere the carnival music, faint and high-pitched. Then I saw behind me in the reflection of that shard a face. No mask. Eyes black. It leaned in. I saw it breathing. I felt hot breath on my ear, though no one was there. I jolted awake. Claire shaking me. Tommy crying. I said the shard did that. She checked, nothing, only silence. She hugged Tommy. She said we should go home. I nodded. When we returned the next morning, I found more shards in my garage, in my car, under rugs, hidden everywhere. The frame was broken beyond repair. The largest shards had been thrown away. I thought them gone, but pieces remained. I woke one night inside our house, the broken shell of mirror and spare room reassembled somehow in reflection. The carnival, the full moon, the masked figures, the overcoat man stepping through, hand reaching. I could not tell what was real and what was reflection. My skin crawled, then I snapped. I smashed every reflective surface in-house. Mirrors, windows, watch face, phone screens. Glass flew. Cuts on my hands. Claire heard glass lovers falling. She tried to stop me. I wailed. She called someone. I could not stop. When I was exhausted, I sat bleeding among broken glass. I stared at whatever light came in, and there was no reflection, no mirror, nothing. I thought I was free from it. It ended at 4:02 a.m. Claire found me in spare room, kneeling, picking up a tiny shard, holding it to my eye. She said my pupil was dilated, no reflection from that shard. I looked through shard at her. She looked terrified. I realized it still reflected Halloween night. I realized that even though the glass was gone, the cursed mirror was not destroyed. The reflection lived in pieces. It had become something that could survive in fragments, something that could hide, something that always finds a way to show that night. I tried to drop the shard. It cut deeper, drew blood. I dropped it. Blood pooled. Claire called the police. I wandered outside. Early morning chill, shards glinting in lawn like teeth. The house empty, silent. No Tommy, no Claire, their room empty. The bed unmade. The door unlocked. I dropped shards, stumbled, screaming. Dozens of shards littered porch. I looked in one. Tark-masked child stared. I looked in another. Carnival tent. I looked in others. Overcoat figure looming behind me. Then I saw Claire reflected in one shard. Mouth open as if screaming, but her face contorted wrong. Eyes gone. Face half masked by carnival lights, though real was dark. I knelt, I reached. The shards cracked under weight. Blood glass, and then silence in real life except distant laughter, carnival laughter, drifting wind. The fragments reflected. Always October 31st, I have not slept since. I cannot look in mirrors without fear. I leave places dark. I avoid reflective surfaces. But I know deep in me that the mirror is in me. Halloween night lives inside shards, inside me. I wake sometimes seeing that masked child's eyes in darkness of room. And when I close my eyes, I see carnival lights, cold moonshine, smell popcorn, feel laughter just behind me. I hear whispers. Come see October 31st. The reflection calls me. I fear I will never be free. Story number 4. I bought the mask from a street vendor in Harper's Crossing, Tennessee. One cold October afternoon, believing I was snagging a bargain for Halloween. The vendor claimed he had no face and that the mask was one of a kind. It cost $50. I wore it that night on Halloween. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. After Halloween ended, I tried to remove it. It would not budge. And what looked out from behind it was not me anymore. I first saw the vendor at a street fair in Harper's Crossing, a dusty little town of modest stores and peeling paint, where the highway thins and the woods close in. I had been wandering through booths, sipping coffee, looking for things I couldn't afford but liked. The vendor's tent was small, ragged, 2 plywood boards with driftwood poles holding up a tarpaulin, shadows pooling underneath. The mask lay in a wooden crate. No mirror nearby. No one else looking at it. The mask was made of something that looked like leather but smoother, tighter, too polished. The shape was human. Male features. High cheekbones, sharp nose, thin lips parted slightly. Eye holes were slits, barely more than small gashes. It had no expression. I picked it up. It felt cold in my hands. Lightweight. The vendor said, "Fits just right. Not many make those cheeks like that anymore. Keeps shape. Doesn't shift." I asked where he got it. He shrugged. Old place. Old craftsman. He pocketed his face with a handkerchief when I asked what he meant by no face. I handed over the money. He nodded. I thanked him. I went home with it in a paper bag, heart thumping like it was some strange ritual. That night I placed it on the dresser in our spare bedroom. Claire, my wife, asked why I bought such a thing. I told her it was for Halloween, for fun. "It's creepy," she said. I smiled. I said, "Fascinating." I unpacked it, looked in a mirror. I held it up. I saw myself framed by darkness reflected behind me. I slipped it on. It settled over my face. The straps pulled tight. The eye slits matched my eyes exactly. It was almost seamless. I breathed. The leather pressed to skin. The darkness behind the mask's eye holes was complete. I could not see my cheeks. I lifted my hand to feel my face. I touched the mask's cheekbone, sharp, cold. I exhaled. I felt my skin through the mask. It was me. At first, when I wore it, I felt different. I walked differently. My voice sounded deeper when I spoke. I saw Claire studying me in the mirror. "You look like someone else," she said. I laughed. I took the mask off. It came off easily that night. I put it in its box. I went to bed. The mornings after became awkward. I felt residue on my skin, tightness, warmth, the lingering impression of leather curves. But I thought it psychosomatic. I told myself I was being dramatic. I posted the mask on a shelf. Every day I passed by it. It looked unchanging. Daylight, mask blank. No breathing behind its features. No movement. I forgot it almost. Then November 2nd came. I got up early, made breakfast. I noticed a faint outline of the mask face in the mirror, even though the mask was in its box on the shelf behind me. I turned. Nothing. I returned. The mirror's reflection showed the mask in my hand, though it was not. I blinked. I moved. The reflection remained. I dropped a mug. It cracked. The glass shattered. Claire came running. I said I saw something. She brushed me off. Told me maybe I was just tired, the uncanny valley playing tricks. We cleaned up. I avoided looking in mirrors. Over the next week, I tried everything to detach the mask. Loosening straps. Pulling gently. Rubbing oil, soap, water. The mask refused. My skin under the mask began to tingle. Itched. Redness. But I forced myself not to panic. Each night I slept with the mask in its box. But sometimes I woke up with it on. I insisted I must have done it in sleep. Claire said she didn't hear me moving. I felt her breathing, quiet, beside me. The mask strap bit into my skin. I woke, hand brushed across my cheek. Feel the cold, unforgiving surface instead of my skin. My palm slid across leather. I gasped. Claire stirred. I removed it as best I could. It slid off partially, but the edges stuck. Pain. I tugged. It would not release fully. Midnight passed. I lay awake, skin heated, mask half adhered. I felt something behind the eye slits shifting. Something breathing lightly. My mirror at the dresser told me things. Every time I looked, the mask looked back. But sometimes the mask reflection held eyes I did not recognize. Not mine, deep dark nodes within. And when I turned to look at myself in reality, I saw naked skin, flushed and hot. But the mask in reflection had eyes that observed me without seeing me. I began to hesitate, looking in glass at all. Doors with windows, car mirrors, reflections in spoons. Everywhere the mask might be. Claire began to worry. She said I looked gaunt, distant. I stopped going out. I avoided friends. I stopped cooking. I lost weight. The strap marks on my face became visible in daylight. I told her I would go to a doctor. He examined skin, nothing serious. Irritation, possible allergy. He asked if I slept in mask. I said no. He saw redness where mask sat and recommended cream. It burned when applied. I flinched. He frowned. I pleaded privacy. I left. December came. Snow arrived early. It melted, then froze. Nights colder. The house creaked. Furnace thundered in basement. Rain pounded the roof. The mask was sealed in its box in spare room. But I heard scratching sometimes, like hands dragging across wood. At first I thought old house shifting, but always the sound louder behind the spare room, behind its door. I pressed ear, nothing. I lay awake staring at the door. I smelled leather, then something sour. A breath of old skin, sweat, and decay. Claire would roll over. She smelled it sometimes too. She said they were nightmares. She said if I wanted we could throw it away. I refused. I needed proof. In early January I moved the mask to our attic. I locked the box. Heavy chain, padlock. It sat under beams, dust, rafters. I thought it's safe. I thought I was done. But each night the scratching came. So soft from attic floorboards. At midnight. Sometimes before. One night I crept up, flashlight in hand, breathing shallow, heart pounding. I opened the attic hatch. The box lay undisturbed, chain still locked, box still sealed. I knelt beside, listened, the air cold. Boards creaked. I saw a faint outline. Shaped like the mask face, carved in the wood dust like someone pressed the mask flat in dust. I flinched. I shone the flashlight. Nothing, my breath caught. I turned. The sound of footsteps on attic floor, ladder shifting. I climbed down fast. Door slammed. I almost screamed. Claire came. I told her. She rubbed my back. I said, don't look upstairs. We left it. Psychological changes followed. I woke nights panicked. Dreams of eyes behind mask stuck to bone, skin fused. Sometimes I woke and saw a masked face over me, leaning in. No voice, just breathing. The eyes, they measured me. I could not scream. When I opened my mouth, there was mask over it. Something pressed, I woke. On my back, sheets twisted. Mask under pillow. How did it get there? I did not move it. Claire said she did not see me carry anything. She said I must have done it in sleep. I said I did not. She looked at me broken. I looked back red-eyed and trembling. Then one night I woke to noise in box and attic. Metal scratching, movement. I felt drawn. I climbed. Ladder heavy. The attic cold sobbing wind through boards. I opened the box. The mask lay inside, but it was changed. The straps had braided themselves. The leather had pills, wet patches, veins under surface like flesh under skin. The eye slits narrower. The mask breathing lightly. I lifted it. It was warm. Not leather. Something pulpy beneath. I touched it. My fingers sank. Something pulsed. Something slick. I recoiled. It breathed again. I dropped it. It landed face down, eye holes open, darkness inside. I stared. The sound of my heartbeat roared. I turned. In the corner a shape, tall overcoat, mask identical. It stood in shadow. I could see nothing but shape. It did not move. I scrambled down ladder. The next day I refused work. I lay in bed. Claire left for school meeting. Tommy, our son, stayed at his grandmother's. I could hear attic under my skin. I could hear mask whispering. I went up, gloves on, hammer in hand. I smashed the mask. I smashed the box. Leather cracked. Flesh-like material split. Straps ripped. Among fragments I saw odd things. Hair, very dark, coarse. Nothing I recognized as mine. Flecks of bone-white matter shaped like teeth. I watched shards. I pressed a shard to palm, skin cut, warmth. I found a small note folded under mask. Yellowed paper. Words in smudged ink. Thank you for letting me in. No signature. I felt relief. I thought I was free. I washed my hands. I changed sheets. I cleaned attic floor. I sealed box in trash, shipped off to incinerator. I drove to dump at midnight, dropped box, watched flames. It burned, smoke twisted. Heat glowed. I turned car home. The highway was empty. Headlights cutting through fog, wind humming against door. I saw in rearview mirror the mask resting on passenger seat. Box empty. I jerked wheel. The mask was there. I stopped car. Held breath. I reached, it felt like my skin was not there. The mask straps buckled around my head. I screamed. Hands fumbling. Eyes behind the slits glinted. They were black holes sucking light. I pulled. It would not move. Then headlights approached. A truck passed. Its lights washed across me, glass road, my reflection in the rear view, mask face looking back. But outside, no mask on seat. No mask in lap. My hands on steering wheel. My skin pale. My hair wild. The road blurred. I sped home. The mask stuck, I arrived. Claire was waiting. Door unlocked. She ran when she saw me. She said, "What have you done to yourself?" I tried to tell her it's not me. She said eyes are wrong. Mouth beneath mask moved independently. She tried to pull mask. Couldn't. Blood where strap cut into flesh. I saw something reflected in window pane. A figure mirrored behind me, overcoat, mask face, breathless. I turned. Nothing. But every pane, every window in house showed that face behind me. Claire left the next morning. She didn't look back. Tommy went with her. I stood in empty kitchen, mask fused. I stared at mirror above sink. I raised hand. Touch mask. Cold, unyielding. Eye slits narrowed. I spoke, my voice echoed. But inside I heard another voice rasp, whisper. I am me. At night I dreamed of pulling mask off, but always finger stuck. Leather merged. Bone. I saw that same tall figure standing in my doorway when I slept. The mirror showed not me, but that figure. The mask breathing, eyes unblinking, waiting for me to accept. Weeks later I found a picture taped to my door. A photograph of me wearing mask. Taken from behind. My hands raised, mask on. But no mirror in photo. Just doorway me mask. The hands around are bone thin. I did not take that photo. There was no camera. I stared until dawn. Light spilled red. I know now the mask is alive. It wants my face. It wants my eyes to glimpse through its slits. It wants me to see through it until I am no one but it. I wonder what lies behind it now. I wonder whether the skin under is still mine. Every time I breathe, it smells of leather and decay. Every time I blink, I see edges of the eyes are not human. I have tried everything. Doctors, therapists, none can help. It would not come off. I heard children laughing down the street. I saw my reflection in a car window. The mask face looked back. Its mouth parted in a smile I never made. Then I saw the tall figure in rear view standing on lawn. The moonlight fell. The mask slits glinted. I opened door. I screamed. But the overcoat figure was gone. I sit now at candlelight, hands wrapped in cloth, mask on. I write this so someone knows. If you ever see a vendor with no face, do not buy their goods. If you ever wear a mask that fits too well, do not refuse to remove it. Because when the mask does not come off, you become what it shows. I know I am no longer me. The mask sees through me. It learned my face. It wears my skin. It laughs in reflections behind me. It inhabits the edges, and I do not know if I can ever wake up from being seen. Story number 5. I never meant to go up there. Father Mark's Chapel, they called it, though it had not held a service in over 40 years. Rusted steeple, boarded windows, pews rotted. The bell tower creaking, paint peeling in long strips off the siding. It sat on a hill just outside Middle Ridge, Oregon, surrounded by dead firs and the damp smell of moss and rot. When I was a teenager, I'd dared friends to sneak in, look through stained glass, maybe steal a fragment. Always too afraid. But 3 years ago, when I was 25, I came back, and I saw what people in Middle Ridge wouldn't talk about, what they tried to deny. I saw the bell ring, the doors slam themselves, and something behind all that no one wants to believe. I moved back home when my mother died. The old family house creaked under her absence. I thought working at the hardware store, driving out to fix old fences, patch roofs, cleaning the gutters of abandoned houses would settle me. Middle Ridge is quiet. So quiet the wind sounds like a sigh. I heard the rumors about the church bell right away. Every Halloween, right at midnight, they said the abandoned church bell would toll once. Just once, then the doors would slam. Then nothing until next year. Locals avoided the road up the hill come Halloween. Old people muttered that the chapel had been built by settlers in 1880, that a priest died in the tower, that children vanished near it, but no records, paperwork, death certificates. Just stories. I didn't believe them. I walked the hill during the day. Gate padlocked, churchyard overgrown, gravestones half sunk. Doors swollen shut. I peered in windows. Black inside. Earth smell, mildew. I touched the weather-worn door. It was cold. Nothing inside but rotten wood and the echo of wind. I laughed at myself for ever being intrigued. Still, there was something there, something alive in decay. When October came, the air turned hard and cold. Mist settled low behind the hills. I started noticing the church more. On nights when I drove home late from the hardware store, headlights would catch the steeple high against clouded moon, silhouette sharp. Sometimes I'd think I saw movement behind a broken stained glass panel. A flicker, maybe fabric, maybe shadow. I'd jerk the wheel, heart pounding, then it would be still. Maybe wind, maybe trees. One Halloween just after dusk, I went with 3 friends, Jenna, Malik, and Scott, because we were kids once, daring each other. We parked at bottom of the hill, climbed the ragged path through brush and dead branches. The scent of damp earth, dead leaves, gasoline from our truck, the cold of the hill pressing at our necks. We stopped at the gate. Padlock rusted, chain sagging. Malik pried at wooden doorway. It gave a little. Jenna joked about ghosts. I didn't laugh. My gut was cold inside, floors sagging, pews collapsed. I ran a hand across dusty wood. The air tasted of mildew, rust, something sweet and coppery. We brought flashlights. Beams shone on decaying altar. On hymnal pages faded, corners eaten away by moisture and insects. Church choir stalls rotted, pulpit leaning. The tower stairs were narrow, wood boards missing, hole in floor like a black mouth. We climbed. Malik ahead, squeaking boards under his boots. Upstairs was bell chamber. The bell hung there silent. Rope frayed and broken, wood beams warped. Moonlight slanted in through holes in roof, dust motes drifting. Jenna shivered. Scott cursed softly. I felt a longing air as though breath had been held for years. I reached to touch the bell's rim, cold metal, smooth in spots, pocked in others. I listened, nothing, we lingered. I looked down through a gap in floorboards to the nave. Pews collapsed. The cheapest reflectors in our flashlights showed sawdust and pigeon droppings. Then something shifted outside. Sound of branches, a low wind, then a board creak like someone walking. We froze, breath held. I said, "Hello?" No voice. Jenna whispered to go. Malik muttered we should leave. I agreed. We climbed down, stepping carefully, shadows dancing across walls. When we got near main doorway, Scott pushed the door. It swung open. Wind gusted inside. It felt like the building exhaled. We left, laughing hollow laughs. We didn't go up again for a while. Days passed. I drove past the chapel each night on my way home. Sometimes headlights caught the windows, glare of moon. I noticed a door that had seemed closed during day was ajar at night. I thought I must be imagining. Then Halloween night came. The air was icy, a moon fat behind thin clouds. I told myself I would be at home. Jenna called asking if I wanted to meet at cemetery. I said no. But just before midnight I found myself driving up the hill. Must have been muscle memory. My hands white on wheel. I parked where before, engine ticking. Silence thick. Weeds rustled. The path up to church overgrown but driven. Gate creaked when I pushed it. Walked through gravel crunching under boots. Inside, church smelled worse than I remembered. Stale air, mold, rot, faint perfume of incense long gone. I carried flashlight. Beams dance across fallen plaster, shattered glass, altar cracked. I walked toward tower stairs. Malik and Jenna had followed. Scott stayed near back, lights bobbing. We whispered. The moon casting uncertain shadows. Midnight approached. My phone showed 11:55. I swallowed. I told Jenna maybe this was stupid. She nodded. Malik said he'd heard the bell already. I thought maybe speakers from town prank. No, too real. At 11:59 the air shifted. Something cold behind my neck. A sound. A distant creak, the bell's rope swaying maybe. At midnight exactly, the bell tolled once. Deep bronze echo that shook glass shards and made dust fall. One toll long lingering in the air. Then doors. Front doors slammed shut with force. Wood against frame boomed. Malik jumped. Jenna cried out. I felt pressure behind my back. Flashlights flickered. Then darkness deepened in the nave. The moonlight swung in, clouds covering, leaving interior pitch. I heard footsteps on balcony above. I looked up. Figures in hooded robes, faces hidden. They glided across the balcony walkway. Too many to count, moving in line toward the bell chamber. I called out, "This is a joke, come on." My voice echoed, swallowed by the church. We tried doors, locked, bolted from outside. No working windows. Air felt thick, heavy, tasting metallic. Jenna grabbed my hand. Malik pounded on walls. I tried the main door again. It would not budge. The bell tolled again, though rope was broken. Echo came from tower, though from where no one knew. It seemed inside walls. Then a low humming. Deep voices chanting in Latin or something like it. Words eaten by echo. The floor vibrated. Wood splintered. Dust rained from ceiling. I saw shadows stretch longer, darker, contorting on walls. One of us, Scott, screamed. Jenna fainted. Malik tried to open windows. Nothing. I saw the altar candles light, though no candles were present. Flames blue, green flicker, no smoke. They lined the altar edge. A figure stepped into the altar circle. Tall, skeletal, an old priest's cassock rotted, face gaunt, eyes hollow. He held something, bell rope maybe, or chain. He lifted it. The bell tolled again. Job done, he turned toward us. Mouth moved, though only silence came. Eyes fixed on me. I tried to run, but paralyzed. The bell tolled a final time. Doors slammed again, then silence. The chanting stopped. Light from flashlight died. Jenna woke, screaming. Malik slumped. Scott not there. I called his name, no answer. I heard a thump upstairs, something falling. My flashlight flickered. Shadows jumped across ceiling. I fled, dragging Jenna. She cried. We stumbled downstairs. The church seemed to grow narrower. Walls breathing. Doors ahead shut. Pews closing in. I kicked them. Wood splintered. Smell of blood, someone's? Maybe mine. We burst through front doors. The cold night air hit. I looked back. Church stood pale in moonlight. Doors closed quietly behind us. No sound, no further bell. No movement. Just stillness, the hill silent. Jenna sobbing. I touched my cheek. Blood where glass cut. Malik covered finger. Scott missing. The next day, the churchyard was empty. No signs of damage except on doors. Scratch marks, wood splintered from inside. Authorities came, saw nothing suspicious. No ritual paraphernalia, no candles, no corpsed priest. Scott remained missing. Jenna refuses to speak. Malik moved away. I stayed because this is my town, my family home, but I have seen something real. Now every Halloween I stay indoors. The night sky, moon thick with clouds, I hear distant bell toll once. Doors slam somewhere in wind. But I don't go look, because I know what answered. Not a priest, but something older, something hollow, worshipping shadows. Something summoned in that bell in the chapel's bones. Something that will answer again each year. When the clock strikes midnight, if you're still with me, thank you for listening. What we saw inside that church wasn't just some urban legend, some forgotten footnote in Middle Ridge's dusty history. It was real. I lost a friend that night, and whatever we awakened in that chapel, it never really went back to sleep. Each Halloween I still hear that bell, once loud and low, echoing across the hills like it's calling for someone. Maybe for me, maybe for you. So if you ever pass through a quiet town on Halloween and someone tells you not to go near the old church when the clock strikes 12, listen to them because it doesn't ring for the living, and if you hear the bell toll, run. If you enjoyed this story and want more spine-tingling tales just like it, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepy Midnight, and ring that bell, not the one in the chapel. Of course, unless you want something to answer. Drop a comment below if you've ever experienced something truly unexplainable on Halloween night. Who knows? Your story might just become our next nightmare. Until then, sleep with the lights on, and whatever you do, don't answer the door when the church bell rings, not on Halloween. Not ever.